Welcome to episode 2 of Wi-Fi Tribe's Living Boldly podcast. Now, this podcast is for people who love to travel, who are looking for more connection in their lives, and very importantly, for people who live intentionally. So throughout this podcast, you're often going to hear me talking about that idea of living boldly through community. And what that really means is that I believe that your best life and that the big, bold dreams that you have for yourself, you're going to achieve them and you're going to live out the life that you really want when you lean into community. And that is what this is going to be all about. All right, we're going to be covering a few things in this episode. First off, Tribe Fest. It's 9 years in the making, the biggest ever event Wi-Fi Tribe has ever done. It is entirely community co-created. And the whole point of it is for you to ask yourself, well, what's next for me? And how could the community help me get there? Secondly, I talk about a few of the things that have surprised me with Wi-Fi Tribe as we've gone from just 7 people on our first ever trip all the way to 700 active members now and several thousand alumni who've joined Wi-Fi Tribe over the years. The next one is really close to heart for me. It's how does Wi-Fi Tribe stay tight-knit and connected as we grow and we become present all over the world. And there's going to be 3 parts to that. The first, I'll tell you a little bit about how the size of the trips, the chapters that we do really matters, what impact that has. Secondly, I'll dig into the hubs, the city hubs that we have that are run by ambassadors that are basically these little pockets of community all around the world that keep it tight-knit and together. And then thirdly, I want to tell you a little bit about these new themes that we're bringing in that tie people together around founders who want to come together and build something together, around AI learners, people who are trying to stay relevant in this day and age, which is super important. And of course, also about people who are on that fitness journey. And these are just a few of many themes that the community is exploring together and what's kind of pulling us back together again. And we're going to end the podcast talking a little bit about that big vision of becoming a country without borders and what it really takes from a culture perspective for us to get that part right. All right, let's go.
Diego, we're back. It's
good to be back.
So good to see you, my friend.
Likewise. I'm happy that it wasn't a one and done.
I am so happy it wasn't a one and done, man. I'm so happy it wasn't a one and done. How are you feeling after episode 1?
I'll say excited, committed, ready to keep going. I think they're going to get easier as we go. I'm not going to lie, always a little bit nervous when we begin, but I'm just looking forward to it. It's going to be a journey for all of us.
For all of us
thanks to our
involved.
3 listeners for bearing with us.
Absolutely, man. I wanted to start just by asking you, were there any questions that I asked you last week that you'd like me to ask you again this week? Because I know how your mind works. I know you've probably thought about some of the things you said last week. You probably had some insight into some of the questions that I asked you between now and then. And there might be some new insights that have emerged for you. So I wanted to start just by giving you the opportunity either to edit yourself or add to what you created last week.
I think I'll say I stand by what I said last week. If there is something that we could dive into again at some point throughout the chat today, I think it's always interesting to revisit where Wi-Fi Tribe is headed. It's an interesting conversation. It's so relevant to everybody, and we can bring that maybe into different pieces of the conversation because it's always going to be relevant, right? And we might uncover a few other angles, maybe things that we didn't talk about last time, but all good. Let's roll.
Brilliant. So I'm going to start with the first question, which is, as always, where in the world are you today?
Yeah, so still in Bali, and I'm trying to hold on to Bali for dear life, although I have to take a flight to Europe soon, or get to. Very excited. We are going to be running our first ever festival, the Tribe Fest. It's been basically 9 years in the making, in the dreaming at least. And quite seriously, we've been thinking about it now for 4 or 5 years. And so it's this opportunity to bring together the entire tribe, as many people as can make it, celebrate life, this lifestyle that we're all on, this journey that we're on, this community that we've created together, but also to think about what's next for each of us individually, and how the community fits into that, but also how the community can help us unlock some of those dreams that we have for the future. So I am super excited about what's coming next. I love Bali. I'm not ready to leave, and I don't think I ever will be, but I am so excited for our big Tribe Fest. It's going to happen in the UK. We're renting out a manor, an estate, so it's about as bougie and as quaint British as it gets. There's actually a moat around that estate, and then we're going to have these glamping tents and a little tent village around the estate. So there's a lot of open spaces for us to do all the shenanigans that we're planning to do. Yeah, super excited for it.
So you said that when we were speaking a while back, you said that on one of the very first chapters, if not the first chapter, that you guys did way back 9 years ago, 10 years ago, this idea of a reunion or a festival for members was born. You were out on the salt flats, and you were in Bolivia, and you were just chatting amongst yourselves. What would you have thought then, much younger Diego, if you knew that it would actually happen? Like, what would have gone through your mind?
I think the first thing that comes to mind, Millen, is just excitement. It's just this like, oh my God, it's actually possible. It's actually happening. It's actually real. Because bear in mind, if I transport myself back to 9 years ago, that was our very, very first chapter. We were in this epic place in Bolivia on the salt flats. Sun was setting, like just epic scenery. But there were 7 of us, right? That was it. WiFi Tribe was 7 people. And to now be in a place where there are 700 active members, and we must be getting close to 3,000, with all the people that have joined through the years, the people who are now not active members anymore. And to be able to set a festival like this up where there are enough of us who can carve out that time, who are really excited about it too. And bear in mind, the festival it's contribution based, right? So there's some elements that we're borrowing from Burning Man. So that means that everybody's coming in with the idea that they're going to be co-creating this and contributing to the festival itself, right? Take me back to back then, those 7 people, the idea that we'd be co-creating this with so many people that have put in so much effort and passion and time to make this event happen, that I don't think I would have known or believed. Because back then, I think I would have always been looking at it as, oh, I'm going to have to like organize the whole thing. And it's just so wonderful to see what's possible when a community of people come together. Like, we are able to do the kind of things that no individual is able to achieve on their own. So the festival itself, this big thing that's being put together by everybody, in some ways is the perfect example for what can happen if you lean into a community and if you really start to leverage and unlock the power of community for you and for your life, right? Of course, I never want this to sound like it's you taking something out when I say you're leveraging the power of community to help you achieve these incredible things in your life. Because the reality of it is you get out what you put in. And I've seen that throughout the years over and over again. The more somebody comes in with that mindset of giving, the more they get out of it, right? And that's exactly what's happening right now, where everyone's just throwing things in, contributing, and making these incredible things happen. But I love that it's an example for what could happen, what could be the reality for every member in the community who truly leans into what's possible through community. And that's it. That ties us back to this idea of living boldly through community, which is the through line of the vision for the future of Wi-Fi Tribe, right? How do we help every one of our members live bigger, live the lives that they're really excited about by leveraging the power that's in community?
I love what you've said there, and I feel very privileged to have been privy to or witnessing you doing a lot of the unpacking around what the future of Wi-Fi Tribe looks like, as well as how to articulate the real value that lies in what we're doing here. Over the last probably 6 or 7 months, I think it's probably been something you've been unpacking for 9 years. But I mean, I feel like I've seen kind of like the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the actualization piece, the part where it's like, the light bulb really goes off. And I wanted to ask, as a founder, you start with something, it's a raw idea, it kind of feels like a lump of clay. You've got it on the little wheel in front of you and you're carving away pieces until this becomes the thing that you see as the vision that you had when you started. Would you say that Wi-Fi Tribe has come to that place, or would you say that through the process of doing it, you discovered what it could become?
I think it's definitely the second. I think it's definitely that I've discovered what this could become. Again, if I take myself back to the beginning, 9 years ago, back in Bolivia, it was simple, right? I was thinking, I want to travel the world. I want to keep working on something. That's where the remote work piece came in. And I want to be surrounded by people who inspire me, people who I'm excited to be around. That's it, right? Encapsulate that, and you get everything that Wi-Fi Tribe was back then, and in many ways, what Wi-Fi Tribe still is today. But what I couldn't have seen back then, I couldn't have foreseen and therefore never even imagined bringing that into the vision for it, is what happens when so many interesting, inspiring, kind, down-to-earth people come together and do this permanently as a lifestyle. What happens is that you think about it initially as this moment in time. When it becomes something that's ongoing, community becomes a part of, this community became a part of all of those people's lives for a long period of time. For some, they're still around today, right? What happens is people are now doing life within this community, right? This community is now there for people throughout all of these big and small moments in their lives, these changes that people are going through, the experiences that people are having way beyond the travel, right? So what initially felt like it could be a bit of a moment in time has become a community that's kind of with you all of the time. And that means that as I have conversations with someone that I meet in the beginning, and then I meet them again 6 months later in a different location around the world, and then again 12 months later, and then again a few years down the line, the conversations I'm now having with this person are so different because this person has evolved so much since when I first met them, right? And that's me and them having one conversation. But there are so many of us in the community, 20 on each of the trips that we do, but then also obviously all of the other members in the community that you can meet. Now multiply that one conversation by all of those other people and all those other conversations that can be had, and imagine the amount of insight, transformation that happens in that process, right? How you grow as an individual within the community. And that part, I think, to me was mind-blowing. That's what had me realize that people are just living their lives to the backdrop of travel and to the backdrop of this, if you will, digital nomad lifestyle, right? Some are fully nomadic, some are kind of satellite traveling, doing a few trips a year. Everybody's got travel in their DNA, but it is not about travel. It's not primarily about travel. That is the coolest part to me. Travel is just the backdrop, right? It's almost the container. It's the activity that we all do together. It's the thing that we all enjoy. It's something that we're all just doing, right? But at the forefront of that is life, right? For every individual is just going through these different stages of life and building this community together as we go, a community that then becomes a part of our lives and helps us navigate some of those challenges or opportunities that come at us. And in many cases, opportunities that are coming from within the community, right? So many people's lives have shifted and changed with this. I mean, people have found jobs, but that's even one of the simpler things. People have come together to build businesses together. So many marriages that have come out of this. There have been babies now that have happened through the tribe, right? And you can't even begin to imagine the butterfly effect of all of that 10 years, 20 years down the line, because just one little thing that can change in your life by being on a chapter with us and meeting a bunch of other people can fundamentally change the rest of your life and the outcomes for the rest of your life, right? Bringing it all back to what I now see as the vision versus what it was back then, I just realized that it's so much more integrated into life itself. And that's, again, where that idea of helping people live out their, biggest, boldest versions of their lives, the lives that they truly want to live as a collective together, helping people make that happen. That's really what it's about. And we also travel.
I love how you've articulated. I think you have an amazing ability to paint a picture, a vivid picture of where we're at as a community when we speak about this particular area of the community. And it brings me to my next question, which is connected to this, which is about problem solving. Because I know, as well as you do, that anytime you work as a collective with people or you collaborate with people, there may be differences of opinion. And Wi-Fi Tribe is this co-created community where we're all contributing to produce something that is so much more beautiful than any one of us individually could have imagined. Where has the community solved a problem better than you could have imagined in a way that might have surprised you? Are there moments like that through the course of Wi-Fi Tribe's history, and what are the moments that really, really stood out for you?
I love that question. Milan, there are so many moments. I always say that Wi-Fi Tribe is really just a sum of all of the moments, big or small, where somebody took me aside and said, "Hey, Diego, you guys are doing this thing. I'm a professional in this area. I've got this idea. What do you think if you consider doing it this way or adding that to whatever you're doing," right? And in those moments, I'm super grateful because I'm not that professional, right? I really don't know anything as deep as any one individual does in Wi-Fi Tribe. And so each of these moments then become like Lego pieces that if you add them all up together, you get what Wi-Fi Tribe is today, right? So that generosity and in some ways also courage for somebody to take you aside and say, "Hey, I think something could be a little better like this," right? I really, really appreciate that. That's a massive thing. I think I can dig up a few examples for sure. But again, I think the best example for that, maybe also because it's so fresh in my mind, is honestly the festival. The idea of the festival was always for it to be co-created. And I believe that we took co-creation kind of to the extreme with this. I had this hypothesis with it, which was, I believe that we can create something really big and remarkable when we're all doing it together, right? When there's a whole bunch of us that are truly committed to creating this thing. And there was risk with that, right? There was obviously this fear of like, oh wow, letting go of that amount of control, or what if they're not looking at it the same way that I'm looking at it? But that's the beauty and the power in community. It is really like a society kind of coming together and saying, hey, we've got this problem that we want to solve. Who's good at this? Who's good at that? How do we organize a bit of this? Who's great at the marketing piece? Who can bring us all together and make sure that we're all aligned? All right, who's really good at the logistical element of this, right? And you get to bring people together who can all shine in their areas, each add their zone of genius to the process, each add their own creativity, their ideas, their own passion to it, right? And what you get in the end is way, way, way bigger than the sum of its parts, than what any individual would have done, right? now when I look at what the festival has already become and what everyone's created, I'm just in awe. And we haven't even done it yet, right? It's going to happen in a few weeks. So we need to have this conversation after the festival is done. Either I'll be terrified and stressed out, or it will have been the coolest experiment, the coolest community experiment. I mean, bear in mind, this is the first time that anything like this has been done in this kind of nomadic travel space, where a bunch of people, a large community of people, have come together to co-create an event, right? All of the other events have been created by one individual, a team, and that's that. Yeah, I'm really impressed by the crew. We call them the Council of Legends because they are legends for doing what they do, and just they are. Yeah.
For a new member, someone who's just joined Wi-Fi Tribe, what does the festival represent in terms of an opportunity to get integrated into the community and to start to experience this community as leverage idea that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, really good point, because I think a lot of people who come into the community as new members might look at the festival and think, ooh, it's going to be a lot of members who know each other. It's going to be like entering a party and not knowing anybody, and that's a terrifying concept, I think, for all of us, right? Even if you're super outgoing and sociable. So we wanted to be really intentional about this. So much so that one of the, we call them one of the councils, the sub-councils, or one of the departments, if you will, of the council that's running the festival, is dedicated entirely to the new member experience, the experience of a member coming in for the first time. And their mission is to bring other new members together, because there are going to be several new members at that festival, so that they can already form this really tight bond of being like, okay, we're the new guys here, and let's go through this journey together. But also to buddy them up with other people who have been in the community for a while, so that we can accelerate them being plugged into not just the festival, but being plugged into the community as a whole, right? And that's where it gets really exciting for somebody, because this is a moment where you're going to meet 70, 80 other tribers, and you're going to be meeting most of the hosts in Wi-Fi Tribe as well. Absolutely wonderful, super warm people who are going to be your friend from day one. And you have this chance within just 5 days to basically plug yourself in to the community in a way that you couldn't do anywhere else, not even on our chapters, because our chapters are typically 20, 25 people for a month, right? Whereas here, you're going to meet that many people you're going to meet 70, 80 people in a matter of 5 days, right? So it's kind of supercharging you and your network within the community. And then, of course, beyond that, we have that theme around living boldly, helping you understand what might be next for you, how the community can help you in that, how we can all kind of move forward in that realm, and just a ton of fun stuff. The kind of stuff that we've been doing for 9 years on chapters that we do when we're not working, right? We've been thinking about all the cool things that we really enjoyed. How can we bring them all into one event, right? And these kind of a little bit higher energy, just activities make it very easy for you to kind of step out of your shell and meet new people, right? Bear in mind also, and maybe this is the most important thing, is that Wi-Fi Tribe as a whole, the culture of Wi-Fi Tribe, is a very open, welcoming, inclusive one. That's just a piece of the fabric of our culture. So you're going to experience that when you come into your first chapter, and you're also going to experience that when you're coming into the festival. So don't feel for a second that people are going to be like, oh, these are my friends and that's that, and I'm not going to talk to anyone. That's absolutely not how we vibe here. It's just not what we do. So don't worry. It's going to be amazing. Highly recommend it. And you'll be joining a whole bunch of other new members who are going to be doing the festival as really their first point and entry point into Wi-Fi Tribe.
Can't think of a better way to get integrated into the tribe. I was super lucky because when I joined the team, shortly after, there were a series of chapters happening in Cape Town where I live. There was a chapter, and then there was a co-live, and so very quickly, and obviously Cape Town is a hot spot for the tribe. So I joined the team, and before I knew it, I was getting roped into dinners and picnics and all kinds of things. And I was just like, oh my goodness, everybody is interesting. Everybody's got an amazing story to tell or something to contribute in the most beautiful way. And I started to experience what you mean when you say community is leverage. And I was interested in understanding from your perspective, for you personally as Diego, what have you experienced in terms of community as leverage? Like, what is your experience of that been, your lived experience of that?
Yeah. I think the biggest one probably is that it feels like all of Wi-Fi Tribe in some sense is co-creation. It goes back to the example I gave before that I didn't know what I didn't know. I was, I think 25 at the time when I started, early in my career. I didn't have a clue about a lot of things. And there were these people that had so much experience and so much wisdom and expertise who guided me along the way and were generous, generous with their knowledge, with their time, and supported all of this, right? That, I think, shows me that there's this huge leverage in doing things together as a group of people, as a community, that can get you there, right? I also have this other example that I'm really fond of. I want to say 4 years, well, actually it was the pandemic, so 5 years ago now, when everything shut down, there was a moment there where we had to completely reinvent everything in order to survive as a company, as a community, right? It was a moment where, just imagine, you've got all of these trips locked in financially as well. Everyone's like booked in, everything's ready to go. From one day to the next, everything shuts down, right? You're scrambling, you're going, oh my God, what are all the people? Okay, how are we canceling flights? How do we communicate to everybody what needs to happen next? How do we help people to kind of navigate this while we ourselves are internally panicking, right? And feel like this has never happened before. How do we get out of this alive? At the same time, you've got finances locked in, money locked into future trips, and you're starting to reach out to the people, to the landlords, asking them what's possible. They're going, nothing's possible, because same issue for me, like all of my business is dried up. So in that one moment, there's this chain reaction of everyone being fearful and of everything that was a plan for the future, where money was locked into the future, suddenly is just frozen and you can pretty much write it off, right? In that moment, we told the community, listen, if we give back all of the money that everybody has put down for a trip in the future right now, Wi-Fi Tribe will not exist tomorrow. Like, it will literally, we just won't be able to do it, right? So we also said, we can't do it. We're not going to do it. We're going to hold on to this. We're going to give you our promise that we're going to be back. We're not going anywhere. We're all going to go on. I think we went down to 20, 30% time or something like that. Like, we really just toned everything down in the team to just be sort of minimum viable, operations to keep things going, keep the lights on until this was going to be over. Bear in mind, we thought back then it was going to be a few months, right? Turns out it was a whole lot longer. And I remember it felt like it didn't feel 100% right. It felt like I had made this decision for everybody else, in the same way that I was going to the landlords, hey, could we please have the money back? I was basically saying the same thing to members and saying, like, no, I'm sorry, I can't, because this is our situation, right? I was frustrated with the landlord, so I understood that some members might be frustrated with us as well, because we just said, no, we can't, right? And somebody, a triber, wrote me and said, Diego, have you considered making it optional? Have you considered saying, whoever wants their money back, you can get it back, but here's our situation. If you can leave your money in your account as a credit, that would be amazing, and it would truly mean that we can keep operating in the future. And he said, I believe that people will do it. I believe that you're going to be okay. That was insanely nerve-wracking, because If we did that, sent an email out to everybody, and everybody said, or not even everybody, enough people said, yeah, I think I'd like to have the money back at this point, that'd be it, right? We would literally it would be a run on the bank. We'd be done. There just wouldn't be enough money to go around. But we went with it. We gave it a shot. We sent an email out to everybody, and it was insane. I think more than 90% of people left their money in the bank as credit with Wi-Fi Tribe. And I was expecting something like, if we were lucky, 50%, you know? It absolutely blew my mind. In that moment, everybody in the community rallied and said, nah, you know, I understand. This is a lot. For some people, it was $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, right? It was a moment where everybody just went, it's, you know, I get it. Like, I understand the situation. I want this community to keep existing in the future. And I understand my role in supporting it so that can happen, right? To this day, I'm insanely grateful to everybody who did that. And I think it speaks volumes to this community and to the members in our community, and to how people see Wi-Fi Tribe, not primarily as a company, as a travel company, but as a real community. And they're treating us that way. They're treating the team that way. They're treating me that way. That's insane. Like, that's amazing. You know, that's honestly, I couldn't ask for anything greater than that. So yeah, I think we survived the pandemic because of the generosity of members and everybody stepping up and saying, we got you, right? And yeah, we were one of the first organizations to then come back to set up the first trip again. It was in Crete, in Greece. Everybody was rusty. It was hilarious. Nobody knew how to socialize anymore, myself absolutely included. But that was it. Like, one by one, we then started to pop up again, and here we are. Thank you. Amazing.
Wow. You said something last time we spoke. You said that in many ways, Wi-Fi Tribe is becoming kind of like a country without borders. And your sharing now makes that so much more vivid in my mind. And there's almost this sense of patriotism about this country that our members have, a sense of pride about that they are part of this community that shines through in what you've just shared now. I didn't know that. That's incredible. So we say we're becoming present everywhere. What are the systems, like rituals or tools or chapters, that you imagine we'll be putting in place so that we can keep the culture of this country without borders strong as we scale?
Look, there's this theory about culture that says it breaks at about 150 people, right? That's where you have a tribe, typically, and it starts to then split into two, and so on and so forth. So I think that's partially because of how people are able to remember things about other people and basically keep other people in their minds with that much information, right? So those are the acquaintances, closer acquaintances that you can have. So I understand that the bigger we get, what's really, really important is that it needs to actually get smaller in many ways. So the more members there are now, again, 700 active members in the community, the more important it is that we are starting to figure out sub-communities. We're starting to figure out moments in time or places where people can meet, where there's a much smaller group of people coming together. The chapters always do that, right? So chapters, right at the beginning, we decided 25 is the official limit of the chapters. That's what we're roughly aiming for. So it can be anywhere between, sometimes 17 to 25 people, shifts a little bit. But we realized that that's a wonderful number for you to meet everybody in a month, get super connected, and really stomp community out of the ground where it didn't exist before, right? There's a magic to that kind of range in that number. And still you have enough people to be able to do all sorts of things and find interest in all that. That's one thing. Chapters are always going to continue existing in that way. Another thing is, well, what happens when I'm traveling around the world and I'm not on a chapter? This is where our hubs come in. We've already got a bunch of hubs. There's, I think, roughly about 20 hubs. The hubs have ambassadors. Ambassadors are community members who are stepping up to just rally everybody, pull people together, welcome them into a city, say, hey, we're all meeting for dinner tonight. Do you want to join us? Hey, we're going to go off and do a hike this weekend. Are you in? Right? It's that kind of a friend that you didn't know you had in a city who welcomes you into their friendship group and pulls you in, and that's it. Right? You're instantly part of a community. That's the whole point. These hubs are going to become places where, at first in some places it might be 5 people, then 10 people, 20 people. If you're in New York, it's probably 30, 40 people, right? So in different places around the world, they might be a little bit bigger, but there's still these manageable sizes that are less than those 150 people where you get to form your closer sub-communities, right? And then the third element on this that I think is really important as well is looking at how do we form sub-communities that exist all over the world, basically online, right? Because when you do that, you're able to create stronger connections between people who resonate on some other level because they feel like they're doing the same thing, they're thinking in the same way around something, they're on the same journey, working on the same challenges. And then they have opportunities to meet each other, to travel together, to say, hey, why don't we organize a meetup between all of us? Why don't we just get a place and we stay there together for a while? So what are these other sub-communities then? It can be absolutely anything. This is what we're going to keep on expanding on. But basically, right now, we've just launched our first fit-themed chapter, and we really want to do more of these. So big shout out to Riley. She's a fitness queen, and she's a triber. She's been around for, I think this will be her 7th chapter in Tarifa that she's going to be joining. And she wants to help people on their fitness journey. And I know that that's something that the tribe is really after. That's probably one of the most demanded sort of themes that we saw coming through. So we're going to want to find ways to create a sort of more fitness-minded cohort of people, a sub-community for that group of people to be able to rally around. Who else? We know that there's people who really want to start a business for the first time. Maybe they've been putting it off for a while. There's a journey in that. There's a crew of people that you could do this together with that would make that journey so much more exciting, fun, and just easier, right, to get down that road. So that's another sub-community that can form. And how cool would it be if what starts online and what starts in our Slack community, a chat group, makes it out of the chat, out of the DMs, and ends up, in a co-live somewhere around the world on a trip together, right? That's the amazing magic of that. Or maybe it's for business owners who are a few steps ahead already, who are experiencing different challenges, bringing those together within the community. Another theme that we've seen popping up a lot now is people are looking at how to stay relevant, how to stay sane with AI, how to basically make sure that we're still going to be successful and we're still going to have our jobs into the future. So just getting with it with AI is another, I think, big sub-community that is currently forming that we'd love to do more themes around, right? These are a few examples, Millen. There's all sorts of stuff. There's people who are dreaming. There's somebody who bought land in Panama, coffee plantation, a few homes in Panama, and is going pretty off the grid, permaculture kind of thing. Amazing. There's going to be a small subset of people that are into that, and cool. Now there's a group of people that can do that together. There are people who want to get at some point in their lives a castle together and turn it into a co-live castle for the tribe, right? An amazing dream. And I think it's absolutely possible with tribers. There are people that want to buy one of those inexpensive homes, the €1 homes in Italy, and refurbish them so that you're in one of these villages. Maybe 10 tribers do that. Suddenly the whole village kind of comes to life with a community again, right? There are people who want to invest in real estate around the world, and it's already happening. They're already supporting each other. So the question is, how do we make more of this happen? How do we bring people together around these themes, around these dreams that people have for the future, around all of these things? Because we're so multifaceted as people, right? Around all of these things that are important in your life, or that are something that you want the future of your life to have, to include, right? Something that you're trying to design into your life as you move forward. If you can bring people together around that, you start to form these sub-communities. Those sub-communities keep a growing, wider community tight-knit, right? Because you keep forming these strong, tight connections within the wider community that now exists on a global scale wherever you are in the world.
It's amazing how you've broken that down, almost down to its like most atomic particles. You know, it's like you're describing all of the small pieces that create the whole. And you mentioned ambassadors. So I just want to say a shout out to Lisa Robin, who is a Cape Town ambassador. She embodies exactly what you're talking about. I've received more invites from her for things than I've received from anyone in my life for anything. And they're always great. She's a super host, and she's connecting and she's moving. And one thing I've noticed about ambassadors is many of them seem to have this kind of lantern consciousness where something happens in the world and then they immediately have this ability to connect it to someone they know in the tribe who might find value in that thing. And so I'll be getting a message going, Julio is thinking of doing this thing, and they are looking for an artist. Milan, would you be interested in providing a musical connection for this person? Like, you know, just connecting dots. And something that came to mind while you were speaking was the importance of community management. And because of the application process I've realized that you've created here at Wi-Fi Tribe, everybody in the tribe, or nearly everybody in the tribe, is an extremely high autonomous individual, right? They've got a lot of autonomy. They've got a lot of self-leadership. And so a lot of the community management actually happens because people stand up and they point the direction and they say, would anyone like to join me? And people then get behind them, and so amazing things happen. But as we scale, we've had many of these conversations ourselves, you and I. There's going to become a need for potentially more community management. What have you thought the first place or the place you might like to start would be in terms of implementing more community management?
Yeah. I think the greatest value in community management probably comes from the stuff that doesn't scale. It's doing the manual things that most communities or most people wouldn't do. I think the greatest opportunity for our community is figuring out what is everybody doing? What are their professions? What are they working on? What are everybody's dreams? You know, what are some of the challenges they're working on today? Where do they want to go? What do they want for their futures? Right? And connecting the dots. And that connecting of the dots, initially, it should be manual, right? There should be somebody, the community manager, who does exactly what Lisa did there for you. But with the help of technology, because it's at scale, we have a lot of people, obviously, who we want to help in that way. Somebody who's basically comparing, like, there's this person who wants this. There's this other person who knows how to do this. Connect those dots. Let's bring those people together. I think that, honestly, this is the crazy part. We have tapped into 5% of this community's potential in terms of what it could do for members, how it could fundamentally shift people's lives. So much of these incredible stories that I hear about people who, you know, got the dream job that they wanted, who ended up building a business with somebody else, who, you know, shifted their career, stepped out from something and now feel so much more fulfilled and happy, are all because of serendipity, because they went somewhere, they met a person, they connected on a chapter, the conversation happened, that conversation led to the next conversation. All of a sudden, both people know, you have a challenge, I might have a way to help you out. Serendipity happens, a life is changed, right? We need to figure out how to make that serendipity less serendipitous and just make it happen more often, right? We have to I think that that's a major thing that we have to unlock. It's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of experimentation. But if we can unlock that, imagine what impact that could have on people. If these things are already happening through sheer luck and serendipity, what happens when there's real intent behind it and real effort, right? There's a lot of things that can be done. I think there's a lot of areas of community management that are exciting. I think this is the biggest one, the most important one. I will share one more that has me really excited, because at the end of the day, yes, I say Wi-Fi Tribe is not just about travel, but let's talk about travel, because that is something that we all love. It's part of our DNA. What I'm really excited about for the future as well is we have a calendar that's the chapter calendar. We call it the chapter calendar. And it's basically all of the Wi-Fi Tribe chapters, trips, unplugged, co-lives. We need to define those on a future episode for everybody to clarify. But for now, just know that these are trips and experiences that Wi-Fi Tribe runs. And we give you a calendar so that you can look at it and go, oh, cool, I want to go there. It's kind of like being in a candy shop and be like, oh my God, so many countries I can go to. How exciting, right? I want the same thing to exist entirely member created. So what if you could just click a button, toggle between Wi-Fi Tribe's official chapters or trips and member created trips, right? If you could do that, suddenly you would see a bunch of people are going sailing. You're invited, right? Hey, there's this Halloween party happening in Transylvania and Dracula's castle. Real story, by the way, happened last year. 40 people are going to go there. Join, right? Hey, there's going to be a whole bunch of people in Cape Town. The whole Wi-Fi Tribe migration is happening, right? Or, hey, let's go skiing over here. Let's go on this surf camp. Hey, who wants to do a diving liveaboard, which is a really niche thing, but we've already had 2 of those happen through the community, right? Let's go to Tomorrowland. Every year, by the way, there's a group of people going to the Tomorrowland Festival. That crew is growing every single year. Like, I'm looking at the selfie photos. Initially, it was like 5 happy people. Now it's 20 happy people in a photo, right? And I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I recognize so many of these tribers in that crew. There is so much of this stuff happening all of the time, so much that I don't even know what's actually happening. Sometimes it takes me months before I find out, oh my God, people did what? That's amazing.
There's one happening right now.
What's that?
Norway. We're hiking in Norway.
Yes, the Norway hut-to-hut hiking trip that was organized by Lena, absolute legend as well. Big shout out to Lena. She's Norwegian, and she basically said, hey, tribe, who wants to join me in Norway? I'm going to take you through this hut-to-hut and show you my country, right? It's those kind of things. Absolutely incredible. Now imagine you could have a calendar to see all of those things, and you literally just have the option of like clicking a button and saying, I'm interested, clicking another button and say, book it, I'm in, right? I want to join for that. From a community travel perspective, you already know that the people that you're going to meet on these trips, whether it's organized officially by Wi-Fi Tribe or by other members of the community, you know who those people are going to be. Whether you know the individuals on that trip or not, you know the culture of those people. You know they're all easygoing. They're all, driven. They're all just good-hearted, down-to-earth people, right? So you're going to have a great time with them no matter what. You know you're going to connect. That is something that doesn't exist in the entire travel space outside of that, because there's so many platforms that say, oh, just create a trip and invite the internet to join you, which is wonderful, allows for a lot of trips to happen and for a lot of trip creators to have a platform. But the main concern that people have about joining those is that it's random, right? You're going to be with random people in that, and you don't get trips are amazing experiences, but ultimately it's the people that make the trip incredible, right? Great people, shittily organized trip, amazing experience no matter what. Crummy people or people that you just don't vibe with, amazing organized trip, shitty experience, right? That's just the maths of it. That's just the reality of it. So if you can control for that one variable, and if going on a trip, going on an adventure also means that you are investing into relationships, into a network that's going to be there for you for the long term, that'll continue opening up opportunities and also just opportunities to have fun and travel together with friends. You get so many things in one go. So yeah, you're probably hearing the passion and energy in my voice. And this is, it's always, you know what, Millen, it's always been a little bit of a conundrum, because what we did for so many years and are still doing with Wi-Fi Tribe, we run these trips, the official Wi-Fi Tribe trips, and of course those trips is how we stay alive. Like that's a lifeblood of the community. It's how we fund everything that we're doing and how we're able to stay around, right? To open it up and say, well, now Wi-Fi Tribe is also about all of these other trips that are organized by members for members. I'm always nervous about it, right? There's a part of me that always says, ooh, am I pulling the rug out from underneath Wi-Fi Tribe? Am I going to crumble it? When I do that, are we going to be in financial trouble if we go down this path? But at the same time, I know that that is such an amazing thing to exist. We just have to figure out how to make that happen and how to make that work, because that's organically what's already happening, and organically we're the tribe where members are taking this community, right? So I want to find ways to create that, to support that, rather than being fearful and saying, oh, no, we shouldn't go down that path because, what's that going to mean for our finances, right? This, by the way, is where the membership comes in. Probably a whole other conversation, but definitely relevant.
And what you just said, you mentioned that members are these wonderful, down-to-earth, easygoing people, and you spoke super, super passionately about them. I can see, and I know how much you care about everybody in the community and the team, which begs the question, why on earth would the FBI want to get involved?
Right, so this was 9 years ago. We were in Nicaragua at the time. Second ever chapter, first official chapter. And, if I can just say, Nicaragua is one of my favorite countries, Miller. Like, I've kept on coming back to Nicaragua so many times. It is, in some ways, everything that Costa Rica is, but kind of more raw, less explored, super adventurous, and it was cheaper back then as well. It still is than Costa Rica. For those who are into a little bit of adventure, it is one of the coolest places that you can go to. Back then we had this villa infinity pool looking out over the ocean. Some nights you'd see these clouds come in and it would start to thunder, and you'd see, I've never seen lightning like that. Like, it wasn't lightning that just went down like normal lightning should do. It was like balls of lightning that were going in all directions. It just looked like you were in Jurassic Park, but you were in this infinity pool. What a crazy experience. So yeah, absolutely recommend it. One of my favorite places on earth.
But I know you like quad biking, right?
Oh yeah.
Did you quad bike?
Any chapter where that? Yeah. In Nicaragua, absolutely. Any chapter where we can do that. But on the note of quad biking, I will say, best quad biking experience of my life. I'm going to give you two. One, Bocas del Toro, which is a little Caribbean island off the coast of Panama. It's like what you imagine the Caribbean to be 100%. You get quad bikes from this guy. He's an American from the south of the States, who's really, really thick accent. He's missing a leg. He's turned it into like this pirate leg. And his whole quad biking rental thing is themed pirate rentals, right? So he's got this map of the entire space that you can ride through with your quad bike. He basically says, here's your quad bike, here's your key, go into the jungle, follow this map. He says, watch out for this place and this place and this place. This is where I've laid booby traps to get all of the customers that go to my competitors. Have fun, right? And that is the wildest quad biking adventure I've ever had, but also one of the most stunning, because you're riding through the jungle, like it's deep jungle, and then every now and then you just come out on this pristine, the perfect Caribbean beach that you've been imagining, like that palm that's kind of like leaning into the water, and the water's just turquoise blue. You've got the white sands in there, the jungle behind you, and you're on your quad bike. You're like, oh my God, how did I get here, right? And then you just keep zooming back into the jungle, and then you're dipping back out onto the ocean again. Absolutely incredible. That's number one. And I don't say this lightly, because number 2 is Bolivia, right? So I'm half Bolivian. I would usually say Bolivia is number 1, but that's how good Bocas is. In Bolivia, what we did is we took these quad bike trips into the Andes Mountains of Bolivia. It was a 2 to 3 day trip with camping in between. So we pack our quad bikes with tents and then just ride out into the mountains together. That was my biggest adventure dream as a kid, hands down. Because I remember going to that mountain with my parents in a Jeep, and I remember quad biking as a kid. And I was like, what if you could combine the two things together and make the most epic adventure someone has ever had? And I believe no one's ever done it before, right? Because it's not one of those custom trips that you just go somewhere and you say, okay, I want to do this one. It was absolutely legendary. We don't do it anymore. It is highly risky. So we do different quad bike trips in Bolivia. This one I've seen 3 people fall off their quad bikes kind of roll down the mountainside and be completely crushed. So I can no longer, in good faith, recommend it, although my heart still wants one last run at it. But yeah, magical place.
While you were talking, I was thinking about adventures and trips and destinations, and I know this, and you know this, but other people don't know this because we haven't announced it yet. But we're going back to Istanbul, and it's a place that we didn't know we would ever go back to. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been to Istanbul.
I have, yeah. I actually did our first and our second, and I think those were our only 2 chapters that we've ever done in Istanbul. It's an amazing city. It's a really, really cool spot. So since then, what happened basically with Turkey is there was a lot of struggle with the currency, which had prices just skyrocket. And every year we kept on wanting to go back. The sourcing team was working really hard to try to find something. Nothing ever materialized. And we basically gave up on it. And then Ben came in, got really excited, and was like, this looks like a hard nut to crack. Let's go at it. And they managed to find an absolutely stunning place. I've got my fingers crossed that this is the beginning of us going back to Istanbul, hopefully at least once a year. We'll see. We'll see how next year goes and how excited the rest of the tribe is about it. But I do know, just from the surveys that we run on a quarterly basis, Istanbul is one of the most demanded destinations in there. So really stoked to be able to put that back on the map for everyone. And yeah, for people to be able to experience that city. It's a city that sits between Europe and Asia. And the Middle East. It's such a cool place. It's obviously been, the history is bonkers. So when you go there, I really recommend also watching a few of there's docudramas and, just some of the documentaries around it, because you understand why so many civilizations were fighting over this one spot, trying to hold control over it, and then ultimately how the city became what it is.
As we wrap up, I have one last question for you, and it's for new members, for people who are on the fence about Wi-Fi Tribe, who maybe think that this is still a travel company. If they joined Wi-Fi Tribe for the travel, what would they stay for and why?
The people, in really simple terms. And that happens all the time. People say, oh, I joined because I wanted to go to this place, and I was kind of tired of solo travel. I wanted to be around a few other people and see if maybe I could meet some friends. And then people always end up saying, yep, I'm staying for the people. So much so that now people are traveling halfway across the world to a destination they've already been to just so that they can come back and hang out with their friends again in that place. Like, it really has become, it's interesting because this initially what starts as this exciting travel lifestyle where you just want to kind of tick off the countries and explore everything. Then you start to slow down in that kind of next phase, and you start to really enjoy being in a place for a little bit longer. And you start to hit a moment where you're like, oh, this is life. And if this is life, then I have to do what I do in life, right? I'm just doing it in a different place. And that includes having a steady group of friends, having your own community, doing, of course, all of your other routines as well, staying on top of the health stuff, being able to work productively, all the other things, right? And that's when people realize, well, if it's about having a steady group of friends and having a community, then where are they, right? Oh, they're all going there. Cool. I'll see you there, guys. Sounds exciting. I've been before. Don't worry about it. I just want to hang out with you guys, right? So I think what people realize is they might come in thinking maybe I can meet one or two people I like, because odds are a group of 20 to 25 people, it's going to happen, right? What people end up realizing is, I've never come across such a high concentration of people I vibe with, right? And that's all because of the application process and the interviews that we have in place. But it's really cool because it means that you walk away not with a group of friends or not with one or two friends, you walk away with a community, right? And that's something really, really special, especially when it comes to travel, where communities are only ever something that you get to briefly plug yourself into, but they don't get to be a part of your life consistently for the long term. That's what Wi-Fi Tribe is changing for anybody who's a traveler.
And if I'm watching this podcast, where can I find out more information about Wi-Fi Tribe, and where can I find more information about you? Where can I follow along on your journey?
Honestly, top recommendation would be hit subscribe to this podcast. Help us out. Let's go from 3 to 4 viewers and listeners. That would be wonderful. Now, I think that these podcasts are going to be the best way to find out anything that you're curious about Wi-Fi Tribe, because we're going to dig deep. We're going to uncover everything. We're going to answer your questions too. This is the place to do that. Next, I'd say hop over to Instagram if you want to check out the vibe. That's where we're going to be sharing videos of what's actually happening on chapters. It's like, imagine Instagram is like this window into the community all around the world. What's happening on our trips, but also what's happening off trips anywhere, right? And then, of course, the Instagram is wifitribe.co, right? And it's the same for the website, wifitribe.co, so you can always find us there. Personally, I'm Diego Bejarano Gerke on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I think all socials. We'll drop that in the show notes because it's a bit of a chunky name to remember.
Diego, thank you, my friend, and I will see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.